one announcement. Just wanted everyone to know that the Urban Reserves meeting will be held, for Oregon City will be held from 5:30 to 7 this Wednesday at the County's Development Service Center at the County Complex. So if you have comments on the urban reserves and the future of Oregon City, you might want to make an attempt to get to that meeting. If you can't get to that meeting, there will be other meetings held, and those will be on the website.
On Metro's website, on Urban
Metro's
Rolls.
website.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on. Planning Commission hearing VR 09-01. This is a variance to build an 800 square foot pole barn on a lot that is less than 20,000 square feet in size. I will read my political information, I'm sorry, legal information. Staff report has been prepared for the application, has been made available 7 days prior to this evening's hearing. The staff report identifies the approval criteria that apply to the applicant's proposal. If anyone would like me to read those criteria, please let me know. Staff has analyzed the criteria which are contained in the staff report along with any written comments and input that has been received through the public notification process for this application. The quasi-judicial hearing procedure the Commission will follow is set out in state law and the Oregon City Municipal Code. The hearing procedure steps are shown on the chart to my left. Anyone wishing to speak should fill out a slip and give it to the planning staff before the hearing. All letters, reports, or pictures must be marked as an exhibit by the planning staff before they can be submitted into the record. For the public record, please begin all testimony by stating your name and address and city of residence. Testimony and evidence should be directed toward the applicable approval criteria. If you believe other criteria apply in addition to those addressed in the staff report, identify and discuss those criteria and explain why you believe they apply to the application under consideration. A person does not have to testify in order to submit written materials of any length while the public record is open on each application. However, any party wishing for a continuance or to keep the record open must make that request before the public hearing is closed. If the Planning Commission makes a decision with which you disagree, any issue which you may wish to appeal must have been raised for the Commission's consideration. Without raising the issue on the record with sufficient specificity and accompanied by statements or evidence so that the city and all parties can respond, the issue will not be adjudged appealable to the State Land Use Board of Appeals. In addition, Oregon Revised Statutes 197-796 requires us to announce the following. The failure of an applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issue precludes an action for damage in circuit court. This time I'll ask any commissioners have any ex parte contact, conflict of interest, bias, or other statement to declare.
I've visited the site and I'm aware of how the properties relate to one another.
Okay.
Yes, as I.
All right. Okay, thank you. So tonight we'll move on in the procedures for this evening. We'll begin with the staff report and any new correspondence that may have been presented.
All right. Thank you, Chair Powell. This is VR 0901. The applicant, it's at 14394 Ames Street up in the Park Place area of Oregon City. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow an 800 square foot accessory building be built on site. Per our municipal code 17.54.10, accessory building uses, an 800 square foot accessory building may be allowed on a site more than 20,000 square feet in size. This site is currently 19,166 because of an improperly filed survey from 1979, and I'll speak about that a little bit more in detail. If the survey was resolved, the issue was resolved, the site would be over 20,000. It would be 22,345, and the applicant has chose to request the variance to build the accessory building on site because of the very complicated nature of resolving this issue. And in speaking with Carl Clinton, our Clackamas County land surveyor, this at the time of purchase and currently is a much easier process to get. The overall aim was just to allow an 800 square foot accessory building on site. They already have an easement with their neighbors, but per our code, an easement to be able to use the property that really in a sense is theirs but is on their neighbors doesn't suffice for our code to allow an 800 square foot building. And so on a planning side, we see this is pretty cut and dry. They have a 20,000 square foot lot, but not in the true legal sense. If you want to turn on the PC section. Could I have the next slide, please? This is an aerial photograph of the site. You can see it is off of Ames Street up in the Park Place area. Next slide. The property is zoned R10 and has to the south of it some R8, but is generally a developed area that was developed to county standards and then has come subsequently into the city through the annexation of 1990 when Park Place was annexed. This is the applicant's submitted site plan showing the proposed accessory building at the rear of the property, meeting the side and rear yard setbacks of the underlying zone. Next slide. This is a proposed elevation of the building. One part of our code for 800 square foot and above 600 to 800 square foot buildings, the materials must be compatible or an alternative is accepted by the community development director. And this pole barn generally would not be allowed in like a new subdivision or an area that has a lot of new development around it. But what our community development director has done is kind of found a compromise between kind of existing development patterns within the city and new areas. And for property owners who want to do more of a metal building on larger lots over 20,000 square feet, if they get most of the neighbors to support the application and they are kind of in a lower density area and they have there's a precedent of pole buildings around them, our community development director generally approves that. So in this situation, the applicant meets all of those situations, and so the community development director will approve the alternate material choice for this. Next slide. The applicant has gone to his neighbors and presented a petition of support, and you see outlined in yellow the houses around him that have signed that letter of support. They've looked at the material, the building elevations, and the location, and the support of the variance. Next. This is the code that we're speaking of. I mentioned 1754.10, especially B, 3B, which is the lot must be in excess of 20,000 square feet. So that's the variance application code criteria that the applicant is applying for tonight. Next page. These are the variance criteria, and I can briefly go down them, but I think what the applicant really has shown is that there is a hardship. Just the amazing technical process to get all of his neighbors to agree on lot lines, because it's not just his property, it's all the properties to either side of him were incorrectly platted, so it's getting every property owner to sign off on a lot line adjustment, pay for a new survey, and get them all okay with the resulting property lines. I think that definitely meets the case for a hardship. So on a staff level, I definitely see that. The purpose of the variance, the purpose of the regulation of a 20,000 square foot lot to have an 800 square foot building is to look at livability and setbacks between buildings and to not have that kind of impact on a smaller development area. The difference between the 19,000 square feet and the 20,000 square feet and the reality of what its impact, I don't see that's necessarily any different. It still meets the intent, which is when you have an 800 square foot building, we understand that you have a much larger lot than a smaller lot. And by looking at the petition from the neighbors, he's kind of presented that they either don't believe there needs to be any impacts mitigated. They're comfortable with the development as proposed. And in general, I think it conforms to the comprehensive plan because, once again, this lot is close to the 20,000 square foot in reality, and then legally it's just under, but in reality it's over 20,000 square feet. And so it's meeting the intent, which is to have only allow larger accessory buildings on larger lots, because what we don't want to do is, bring in accessory buildings that are definitely more in rural nature within our urban core. Next slide. So in general, staff recommends approval of this variance request, and I'm available to answer any specific questions you have, and I know the applicant is here to answer any questions. I think it goes back to the survey. If this survey was correctly filed in 1979, we would not be here tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions of staff?
No.
Okay. None here either. All right. So at this time, we'll see if the applicant wants to make a presentation.
I think that I'm actually proposing this for my son who owns the property. I wrote up the variance and submitted it.
Are we getting you on there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just give us your name and
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't follow the procedures. My name is Jared MacArthur. I live in Happy Valley, and
11990 Southeast Eastbourne Lane. I'm representing my son, John MacArthur, who owns the property. And just to give you a little background, we discovered this diffugally in property lines when we were measuring with a hand tape just before my son bought it last May. And after doing a lot of research with the present owners, the current owners, they kind of knew there was a problem, but they kind of skirted it. It had been sold 2 or 3 times since it was built in '71, but nobody ever discovered it. And they were going to try to do a legal lot, I guess, I'm not sure what you call it, but
There's a lot
an
line
adjustment where it would have taken, it was 7 properties. She has told me that it probably would have taken over a year to do. And we thought that since the people that owned the property adjacent to it gave in writing, and it's been recorded in the city or the county, the fact that it's a perpetual easement for life, that should really take care of the problem. So that's really where we sit, and we need to build, in order to get my 2 boats in his barn, I need the 800 square feet, not the 600, so that's why I paid the money to request this variance hearing.
Okay.
Other than that, that's the short and long of it.
Okay, great. Any questions of the applicant? No? All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You bet. So, at this time, we call for any testimony for, against, or either way, and since we have no one here, I will close the public hearing at this point and bring it up to the commission for discussion and a ruling. Gentlemen? Or a motion? We have a motion, we have a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have Commissioner Broner, motion, and Commissioner Lajoie with the second.
All right, let's call the order. Commissioner Stein?
Aye.
Commissioner Lajoie?
Aye.
Commissioner Groner? Chair Powell?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Good luck.
There you go.
That's it.
Yeah, thanks a million. Sorry to bring you in for.
Not at all.
That's okay.
The
But
variance
on a
process
side
work.
note, I just want to say that this is one of the best and most thoroughly prepared variances for a particular variance I've had. And as a planning staff, I was very happy. And if everybody could turn in a variance application like this for a simple variance, but
You got the time.
And
But-
also to get all of the neighbor support by
Yeah, I
signing,
mean-
by signing a document.
Thank you. You bet, thank you.
so we may be using his application as our new template for variance applications.
There you go.
So it was a pleasure.
All right, well, that's all we have on our agenda. Just want to make a note that there's a tentative planning commission, city commission meeting on May 29th, 5:30.
27th, I
I'm
think.
sorry,
Yeah,
May
sorry.
27th, I apologize. Wednesday at 5:30, and it's for reserves. So staff will be presenting their map, and we'll have a chance to talk about that a little bit more than we have last.
Yeah, I think the goal is really, now that we understand the county's timeline, I think it's becoming more evident that the city will need to come up with their aspirations sooner than later. And the workshops that Metro is putting on finishes up at the end of this month. And I think the goal is, in this work session, to get pretty clear down that path in order to kind of get our comments in with all the larger comments. So if a map's going to be amended, it's all going to be amended at once, and it'll happen early in the summer rather than presenting later after, all this process was already done.
Good. Anything else? Anybody have comments?
The citywide Solve Cleanup Day is this Saturday. And I believe people are meeting at Clackamas Park.
8 to 9 a.m. to sign up. And a shout out for the Main Street Oregon City Group. They were also one of the sites, and I think there's 9 sites to choose from. So if you don't know who to choose, you can go down to Clackamas Park and choose your favorite project. And I know Main Street is really looking for people to help do litter pickup and sweeping and some planting. So, and Hagen's is serving lunch from 12 to 1.
Very good. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, then we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Good
Chairman.
evening.